Oh, yeah. I put it on as Megumi X Bear. Apparently, I'm signed in to her name.
Wow.
And I'm too lazy to actually log out and sign back in.
Signs on. She goes on NASL computers and signs onto her own Twitch.
Not bad. Do you know how much I can do with that? Probably not much. She would know who it was, as this is all being recorded. Let's go ahead and introduce the players in the bottom right-hand position. As the red Zerg, it is MOU's CC MorroW. In the top left-hand position, we have BeastyQT from Team Empire. He is sporting the green Terran. This is on Ohana, as Frodan so rightly said. And we have two very macro-intensive players, although Beasty has been recently changing it up, as I've watched a couple of his games. Of course, not only in the qualifiers, but been secretly stalking him.
Yeah, although Beasty has been one of the most vocal players about the state of Terran.
It's really good, right?
Beasty is just, in his words, it's disgusting. It's disgusting how bad Terran is. And just Beasty, he's got this huge source of motivation. Not only does he feel like he's always been down in terms of Terran being weaker than other races, he also gets overshadowed by his teammates. You know, Beasty has other people like Cass, like Happy, and these are the Terrans that everyone thinks about on Empire and Europe. But they don't think about BeastyQT, and he's here in NASL Season 3. He's come from the Open Qualifiers, and now he's here in the Wildcards, playing for a playoff spot to potentially move to the finals out of nowhere. BeastyQT definitely wants to make his impression, and he's been training so hard in America, and this is his time to shine. He's been training hard, he's been going to other tournaments, and he's been having pretty good results, but this has been his crowning achievement.
He's not coming out of nowhere. He's coming out of Rancho Cucamonga.
The esports capital of the world.
That's what I'm talking about. NASL is here. Razor House is here. Frodan is here. How much more esports can you get?
That's true.
Boom.
And we can see immediately Beasty going for a very typical one racks expand. Now, let's talk a little bit about MorroW. This guy, his win rate against Terran's absurd, 63%.
Before or after patch?
It's just overall.
Okay.
And most recently, his past 10 games, he's been
10-0.
No, he's just been on a pretty good streak. He beat Dragon at DreamHack. He beat, you know, a bunch of other people. He's been taking games off of Alive, you know, and he did beat QXE. Remember that series, MorroW versus QXE? MorroW versus Targo was phenomenal as well. He's just been playing very good. He understands his matchup from both sides. That's what's so cool. That MorroW understands this from a Zerg perspective and a Terran perspective.
Which is so dangerous because
which is so deadly.
The tiny little timings... What? Tiny little timings? The tiny little timings that normally Zergs don't know about, now all of a sudden MorroW does. Yeah. That's how he's able to exploit all these little secret things, especially about the builds, because every Terran build has a point where it's very, very weak. And once he establishes that with, you know, of course, the Overlord buff that helps out so much, he will be probably taking, excuse me, drone advantages left and right.
MorroW has been a Zerg that also says that he prioritizes NASL. MorroW, if you've been talking to him, actually says he doesn't feel that confident because he hasn't been, quote, winning that much. But when he did invite him out to the NASL Sunday Showdown, he crushed Idra. It wasn't as one-sided as 4-0 indicates, just like a lot of our Sunday Showdowns, but MorroW's been playing pretty well, just under the radar as one of the better Zergs in Europe. Now, the big thing is that MorroW has an interesting set of styles. You know, when we've been seeing him in NASL, when he played Jinro, when he played QXE, he goes for mass mutaling Baneling when a lot of people were in the middle of using Infestors. Now people are using mutas a little bit more commonly, and I wonder how Beasty's going to practice and transition for that. Beasty plays a pretty straight up style, but Beasty's also like a huge macro player, loves playing turtley, like I go late game, bring out the nukes, but so is MorroW. I mean, in this kind of matchup, he's used to bring it late game, and MorroW says, if you ever let him get to Brewlords, he feels like he's unkillable at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like both these players are just so interesting when they head to head. Oh my gosh. Okay, I had a stroke. Excuse me. Both these players are super interesting with their styles. As of lately, I want to say, just because the changes have affected their styles dramatically. I think BeastyQT is the person that has really changed up his style quite a bit. And, you know, I'm really interested actually to see how that actually affects him going into this game, because Just like Select. We saw Select play a very different brand of StarCraft than we're not normally used to. And I think it's because of these recent changes. So I don't know, BC might be going for a little bit, cheesier builds overall, abusive builds overall, TT1 style, if I may say so. But, MorroW, as long as he knows that style, he will be able to receive it pretty efficiently. I know it sounds like I'm being biased towards the Zergs, but I play Terran.
I know, you can see that at this point, MorroW is getting for that third, but he hands it off really well, but has to worry about a Cloak Banshee follow-up. But Andre, about this kind of style where you go for Hellion Banshee, Zergs are not necessarily used to the Cloak, they just see the Banshee initially for control, and so Beasty is really playing a little variation of the normal standard build, which I kind of like. And Beasty also doing a good job just harassing with these Hellions. Normally you're not supposed to be able to kite the queens, but he's doing a good job, and killing these queens early on is huge.
Yeah, what is he doing over here? A little bit interesting. The second queen looks like it's going to go down as well. BeastyQT doing an amazing amount of damage. Yeah. Oh my goodness, really punishing his opponent for taking a super quick third base. Yeah. But you can see during this whole time, what was MorroW doing? Spreading creep. Absolutely phenomenal. Normally, this type of pressure actually stops creep spread in its tracks. MorroW not going to hold up at all, continuing his creep spread, and now surging into, hopefully, the middle of the map.
You see, MorroW has Roaches out, but ultimately preparing that the Zergling upgrade style with that Spire.
And here we go. The first, what are they called? Banshees are getting in here and doing so much to MorroW. And at this point, MorroW is actually supply capped, so it's a little bit unfortunate. He's actually going to lose a lot of queens and a lot of positioning here. He could even lose this third base.
And yeah, you can see the Banshee's now working onto his third base. MorroW can't mine from him. He's also pretty deeply supply blocked. Even though his Spire is about to finish, he can't make that many units just yet. He has to make a couple more Overlords. You can see MorroW wants to take out that third, or no, just kidding. Beasty wants to take out that third, but he wants to get those the Banshees in position. And MorroW finally starts to work on it. He's now targeting the queen with higher energy. A very smart move from Beasty. And takes it out. No transfuse for you. It doesn't even matter if you have anti-air.
Wow.
BeastyQT will be able to snipe this third in just a couple of seconds. Unless the queen has something to say about it, but it's too late. And that is huge for a Terran player.
Oh, yeah. The only advantage that MorroW had going into this was this premature third base. Now, what does he have? A very awkward third base. And BeastyQT could basically do anything he wants. I love the progression, though. He's like, I am not going to let this go into this end game stage. I'm not going to let you really capitalize off of the mass queens and the the creep spread that you have. Let me go up to 2 factories. And this is a big tell that this will be a 2-base all-in. Let me go to, I shouldn't say all-in, 2-base heavy pressure, similar to TT1.
Just 2-base timing.
Yeah, 2-base timing, and really punish you with an amazing amount of siege tanks that you're not ready for.
This 2-base push is very big, also in part because Beasty retained his Banshees. And those Banshees just add damage here and there. It can snipe the Banelings if there's any. It can really control a lot of areas in terms of making MorroW being careful of how far he pushes out. And just a great job from Beasty to be able to do this. He's going to try to see if he can pick off this one queen. It's going to come down to the last shot, but the Mutas do pick it off. But now that Beasty knows Mutas are out onto the field, he's going to have to be a little bit more cautious with how he approaches things. He's going to put turrets up in his base. But for the most part, Beasty is looking mighty fine at this point, especially now that he has a pretty decent tank count as well, gearing up for that huge 2-base push.
He should push out pretty soon, knowing that a lot of the gas that MorroW had saved up is being committed to all these Mutas. And when you know that's happening, you say, okay, the potential for my opponent to have Banelings is severely hindered. Right, all of these Mutas, we can count them up right now. It's a total of 10. That's 40 Banelings, or 40 Banelings worth of gas, I should say. No, 40 Banelings, that's absolutely right. So, obviously your Marines are empowered. Go for the push, really take advantage of your opponent. He's going to actually trap all these units in here. Wow. MorroW taking way too much damage over here.
Yeah, no, he's going to flush it into a turret. A great zone control from Beasty. He's going to also trap it from the southern side, but does manage to get away just in time. MorroW bought enough time for things to finish like +2/+2, as well as his +1 flyer weapons. But does MorroW have enough time for things like Baneling speed to finish? if that upgrade finishes, a huge difference it'll make, especially engaging against this Terran army. But BT's got 6 tanks and Banshees that can snipe the Banelings. This is very tough.
That's exactly right. That's the power of this build. He can go up with Banshees and just double shot and double tap those Banelings every single time, and then cover them with the Marines. That's so powerful.
Wow, great spread from Beasty, and he is everywhere. Look at him being very comprehensive, not rushing the push whatsoever. The Mew is engaging straight onto the Marauders and the Aliens, but the Marines are picking them off one by one. Looks like MorroW's gonna roll down anyway. It's just gonna go for it, but there's great spread from the Terran army, which is exactly how you deal with this composition. There's not a lot of Marines left, but there are enough to deal with the Mutas. MorroW has to back off for once, and those Banshees adding so much damage to all of the ground units. Beasty pushing in again, but he does have more units coming in. The tank count is now getting relatively low, but MorroW suffered a lot of damage.
Oh, unfortunately, BeastyQT did not rally to the correct area. I think it would have been over here at the Xel'Naga Tower, but look at how many units he has left over. I mean, MorroW has no chance at actually defending the second push, where he has a very small chance because so much was committed to that attack. A lot of gas was traded there, a lot of Mutas, a lot of Banelings. This is not things that you can easily recover. This is only 6 gases right now. 6 gases times it by 120. You're only looking at 700 and... Gosh, I put myself in the spot right here. 720 gas per minute. It's not that much.
Well, considering the time he's got left, it's not that much. And you can see Beasty is just going to push it again. And you can see MorroW did a pretty good job considering he lost 2 early queens with Creaspan in terms of connecting his bases, but he just doesn't have time. Ohana has that short distance, and you can see MorroW's going to go for it immediately. Now, Beasty does have a pretty good tank line here, but a lot of Marines are caught in there, and MorroW gets a pretty good splash, but is it going to be enough? I don't think so, because the Marines are just too many.
This continuation attack was way too much. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. When Terrans are able to get this continuing flow, this continuing surge of units, it's very difficult for Zergs to actually keep up if they're not defending or if they're not trading super cost efficiently. Now, Beasty is rallying a little bit too far forward, but he should be able to recover pretty easily as there is a bunker all the way over there. Taking out the third base will solidify his position. MorroW is going to drop this first game most likely in a couple minutes.
He's just at this point very behind. As you can see that both players are pretty much on the last few mineral patches. And you can see MorroW going to go for another attack. Gets a pretty good surround on some of those tanks, but there's just way too many Terran units. And at this point, trades is not the worst thing in the world for Beasty, but he does manage to lose a huge core of his army while MorroW preserves many of his Mutalisks. And you can see that Beasty doesn't have that third command center lined up. He's just going to move his main.
What are you talking? Yeah, that's awesome, man. What intelligent decision making. Now, I think actually macroing from here is unnecessary. He can actually keep the pressure up, knowing his opponent is only on 2 bases as well. Actually, 1 base. Look at that. The main is completely dried up. So it's 1 base against 1 base. Yeah, keep that pressure on. Know that 1 base Terran is a lot more cost efficient. I think he's just scared of those back attacks. He wants to situate a 3rd base, which I don't blame him for. Don't get me wrong. That's still a pretty nice situation. BeastyQT is ahead, even though the supply counts show MorroW being slightly ahead. Units lost tab is definitely an indicator of that.
You can see that MorroW doesn't really have an ability to press into BeastyQT, and he's just going to double expand himself. MorroW's also one of those players that he won't really GG out until he knows he's run out of all complete options as well.
Well, here's the thing. I misspoke, I guess. I thought MorroW was completely dead. He had no advantage. He has the upgrade advantage. I didn't even notice that. 2-2 against 1-1.
Oh, he's had that for a long time, man. Gosh. Remember when he stalled with the counterattack? He was waiting for 2-2.
Goodness gracious. So I've been so wrong in some of my analysis then. Yeah, the 2-2 actually represents a lot now that I think. Well, now that I've seen it. Goodness gracious. I was so concentrated on like the timings and everything that I completely just botched that.
No, that's okay.
Pardon me, everybody. But 2-2 obviously represents a lot. This is going to help a lot in defense or even in aggression. That's why BeastyQT had to just back off. But still, it's not a situation when you know you're down 2-2 against 1-1. It's not a situation where you can say, okay, well, let me go ahead and macro from here. No. 3-3 timings will crush you. Ultras pop out, and you're still at 2-2. Marines deal 3 damage.
You see that a huge flank attempt from MorroW, but the tanks get in position just in the nick of time. The Mules are only free to engage the Marines, and splits from the Marines, making sure no Banelings get any hits. Fantastic job from Beasty as the tanks will clean up the rest. And you can see BeastyQT now shuts down the 4th base from MorroW. A great split from our Serbian Terran. All of a sudden, MorroW lost a lot of resources because Banelings are not that cost efficient unless they kill a huge amount of units because they're empty supply. They're destined to die. And as depressing as that is for a Zerg player, MorroW needs to get a good engagement now, but Beasty with another good set of splits will make sure that doesn't happen. The tanks are splashing every single thing, and with 3 tanks and a handful of Marines, Beasty will push back the rest of that army and press into this third, and if this third drops one more time, MorroW will run completely out of options as a lot of drones are running, but they're running straight into the Marines.
And that should do it. MorroW all the way down to 80 supply. I don't think he has much left. He's going to go for the counterattack in the top right-hand corner as Zerglings are just pushing over there along with additional mutas, but I really don't feel like they're going to do very much. Repair is going to go on that bunker. You can see the DPS of those upgrade advantages help out so much. Zerglings and drones being committed over there as well. Drones probably not going to help out nearly as much, but the 2-2, who knows, Frodan, who knows?
Beasty is now pushing into the natural. If he can snipe this tech, MorroW will be completely relegated to nothing. In fact, MorroW knows it's up. GG gets called out. BeastyQT takes game number 1. The open qualifier making his presence known against NASL group players, saying, I am here to stay.
Not bad. Not bad at all. BeastyQT, the continuation is so important to have that constant pressure because you never want your opponent just settling. Once they settle, their macro is obviously able to kick in. And then once they get good army compositions, which you want to stray away from, you don't want them investing their gas into additional mutas so they can clear up your medevacs, they can apply pressure. You want them to go on Banelings. That's why you need additional pressure over and over and over again if you're going to do that siege tank style.
And so BeastyQT takes game number 1 on Ohana. We'll find out what happens in game number 2. Remember, this win or go home. MorroW doesn't want to give up another map because if you go down 0-2, it's so hard to win 3 in a row against a player of Beasty's caliber. Thank you to Epson, the people who provide projectors for NASL Season 3. Check them out at epson.com to pick up your own projector. We'll be back in just a minute with game number 2 between BeastyQT and MorroW. This TVZ will only get more epic, we guarantee it. So hang tight for more action from here at NASL.
Oh, yeah.